What's going on, guys? This is the Red Rogue, and I hope you're all doing well today. While we have to wait just a little bit longer for the 9.2 PTR to become available, our first big Rogue news has already been data mined. Tier sets are coming back, and we already have our first look at the set bonuses. This is absurdly early information, and testing can't even be done on them yet, so for now we'll just have to wear our tinfoil hats and speculate the crap out of these bonuses, which is the point of today's video. The new tier sets will of course come directly from the patch 9.2 raid, the sepulcher of the first ones. However, in a major change from the past, we'll also be able to earn and craft tier pieces through Mythic Plus and PvP as well. This is a topic for another video once we can test that system more, but it's a complete 180 from how Blizzard has treated tier sets for so many expansions. Now I'm gonna feel old because I keep babbling about how things used to work, but I'm sure there are a lot of folks playing right now who don't even know what tier sets are or what they do. So basically, a tier set is a specific series of pieces of armor, and as you wear more pieces of that set, you activate passive bonuses for your currently active specialization, and when you change specs, the bonuses change too. In the most recent iteration of tiers, and by recent I mean like 6 years ago during Legion, you would get a 2-set bonus and a 4-set bonus, meaning you needed to be wearing at least 4 pieces of that tier set to get both effects to activate. This is the same formula that's going to be used in patch 9.2 Eternity's End. So now on to the effects that we'll be looking at for all 3 specs of Rogue. First I'll talk about what each of the sets does, and then I'll break down how each of them will work and some possible synergies we might see. And again, I say possible because there is still no testing of any of this done yet, so it's purely speculation. The set is called Soulblade Shadowhide. For Assassination, your 2 set is Shiv's debuff causes your bleeds to gain 25% critical strike for 9 seconds, and the 4 set is Vendetta causes poisons and bleeds on your target to expire 100% faster. For Outlaw, your 2 set is Mangosh will have a 25% chance to fire a pistol shot, and the 4 set is Pistol Shot has a 50% chance to load a hidden bullet from your sleeves up to 6 times. After loading 6 bullets, Between the Eyes has its cooldown reset and costs no energy on its next use. And lastly, Subtlety. The 2 set is Shadow Strike has a 20% chance to grant Shadow Blades for 5 seconds, and the 4 set is your finishing moves have a 4% chance per combo point to cast Shadow Strike at up to 5 nearby enemies. Okay, so staying in alphabetical order, we'll talk about Assassination first. My immediate impression of this tier set is that it is overly specific and its impact is going to be single target damage gains, in comparison to both Outlaw and Subtleties, which have both single target and multi-target benefits. This seems to be a recurring theme with Assassination, as the majority of their spec-specific legendaries are also single target oriented, and while that is a great thing for raiding or boss damage and maybe in PvP too, it is a bit less useful and is kind of a one-trick pony in Mythic Plus because all your stuff revolves around single-target things. Shiv is going to become an even more pertinent burst window with this 2 set, as we already get a pretty substantial boost to our poison damage via Shiv's natural effect, the lethal poisons conduit, and the well-placed steel conduit. So increasing the bleed crit chance is nice, but it isn't going to have as much synergistic value with anything that we already do currently. If this set bonus were to also increase poison crit chance, then maybe I could see like a super poison build by stacking this with like the Dashing Scoundrel crit chance window and energy regen boosts and all that. But currently, Dashing Scoundrel pulls ahead of other options mainly because of the Frost Shard Domination set, which stores critical hits for big bursts of damage so it counts all the critical hits from for poisons. But without that, I don't imagine it staying as the top choice going into patch 9.2. However, depending on what bleeds this 2 set and the 4 set, which I'll mention in a moment, works with, I think that Doomblade could see a potential comeback, as the bleed damage getting that 25% crit chance buff would be a pretty nice boost, as well as 100% faster ticking speed from the 4 set. Again, that 4 set is going to further increase burst damage potential of the spec whenever you slap a target with your Vendetta debuff. Increasing the speed that your bleeds and poisons deal their damage by 100% during a window of increased damage like Vendetta is potentially potent, and personally it makes me wonder how this would interact with the Exsanguinate talent. But then I remember that Alacrity exists on the same row, and it's like a 9% DPS gain, whereas Exsanguinate just isn't very good right now. I'm dubious of a bleed build being the way to go with all this, but it might be possible. I will say this tier set seems to definitely push Assassination more towards the whole boosting damage phase things, kind of like Subtlety does, but with Assassination having the benefit of not being a limp noodle outside of its cooldowns. If I were to take a guess and be optimistic about how the effects will work, I imagine Venthyr Assassination with Obedience and Doomblade being quite the likely candidate for single target, and Zoldyck Insignia with Obedience being the multi-target option. I don't foresee this tier set causing a really big shakeup in talent choices though, since the set effects are very passive gains that don't really affect your rotation other than having to apply your Ruptures and Garrotes more often during Vendetta windows. Highly unlikely, but you might even see something like the Duskwalker's Patch Legendary, the one that reduces the cooldown in Vendetta coming back, but since all the Assassination Rogues pretty much are going to be Venthyr 9.2, Obedience is actually what lines up Vendetta and Flagellation, so if you did run Duskwalkers, then it would desync them again, which I doubt that'd be worth it. I don't know, I guess we'll see. Next we have Outlaw. This set, unsurprisingly, revolves 100% around Pistol Shot and Between the Eyes. Gee, it's almost like the only thing we're known for nowadays is having the novelty of ranged moves as part of our rotation as a melee DPS, because R and Yar and whatever, and it's almost like every expansion there's always an effect that buffs specifically our ranged moves ever since Outlaw was made. How innovative. Sarcasm aside, the only thing that really interests me about this set is the 2 set, ironically enough. Mangosh is one of our passive effects as Outlaw, where our main hand attack has a 30% chance to proc a free attack from our offhand, and the damage of that attack is buffed by our terrible mastery. Besides just saying that mastery is awful and you should never wear it, we thankfully don't need to worry about that part, since the effect of this set is just when we proc the free attack, and that means we'll have a 25% chance to fire a pistol shot when we proc it. Now, if I were to believe a Blizzard tooltip at face value, which is not healthy for anyone to do, I would notice that the words pistol shot are capitalized, which to me, and in any real world sense of the ability, means it should fire the actual ability pistol shot, and not just a random damaging ability that happens to have the same name. If this works how I assume it would, then this means these free pistol shot procs should also generate combo points, and potentially also use opportunity procs, concealed blunderbuss procs, and should be buffed by things like quick draw and broadside. We of course don't know yet if this is the case, but if it is, then it could be an interesting shakeup with our legendary and talent choices. I'll be looking at this as the assumption of it working the way I think it's gonna, which means we'll be generating a lot of combo points for free and saving a lot of GCDs. For experimentation's sake, I did a 4-minute sim of my rogue and single target and found I procced Mangosh about 95 to 97 times on average over 4 minutes. This means we'd get about 24 procs of the free pistol shot over 4 minutes, so 6 times a minute would be a pretty safe guess. This saves us quite a few GCDs on a regular basis, and also helps keep us topped up on combo points too, especially if any of these legendaries, talents, or roll the bones buffs like broadside buff them. While not the most interesting sounding on paper, the implications it can have sounds pretty good depending on how well it synergizes with our other effects. Heck, even the ambidexterity conduit could actually be slightly useful for the whole time in this whole expansion, since having Blade Flurry active increases our Mangosh proc rate, and it would in turn increase the likelihood of getting the free pistol shot procs. There are of course a couple quirks I can foresee with it though, such as the fact that the Concealed Blunderbuss legendary has been bugged since Shadowlands launched and hasn't been fixed yet despite numerous people like myself reporting it pretty often. Basically, for those who don't know, Blunderbuss has a chance when you proc your opportunity buff to swap it out with a Blunderbuss buff. When you use Pistol Shot with a Blunderbuss buff active, you shoot 3 additional pistol shots. Now, those extra pistol shots do give combo points like they're supposed to, but if you have Blade Flurry active, they don't flurry onto extra targets, which effectively guts the AoE potential of this power. If they fixed this and it worked with the 2 set though, you could be seeing something very interesting in patch 9.2 for builds, especially with how Pistol Shot casts from Concealed Blunderbuss might affect this 4 set bonus. Every pistol shot fired has a 50% chance to load a hidden bullet from your sleeve, whatever that means. Even if you aren't wearing sleeves in your transmog, you'll just pull one out of your skin, I guess. After loading 6 of those hidden bullets, the cooldown of Between the Eyes will reset and it will cost 0 energy. Now, the thing about this set bonus is that Between the Eyes doesn't really hit that hard at all. Even when it critically hits, it barely does like a little bit more damage than a dispatch. However, getting the cooldown reset means it'll be easier to keep full uptime of the crit chance debuff on our primary target, which is something. And the more Between the Eyes casts we get, the better the Greenskin's Wicker legendary would become, since you need to use Between the Eyes to make your next pistol shot do that big boost of extra damage. And that legendary actually works right, so when you Blade Flurry with that big Greenskins hit, it actually will hit all the extra targets with that extra damage. I do hope they add in something like maybe making like the Between the Eyes do extra damage or something with this set bonus, or maybe it puts a debuff on the enemy, I don't know, something to make it do a little bit more damage than a regular finishing move, as otherwise the 4 set is moderately unimpressive, whereas the 2 set could be pretty interesting to how it affects the pacing of the spec. Lastly, and definitely best of all, Subtlety's set. Overall, I'd say this is probably going to be the best of the 3 rogue sets, and helps shore up some of the weaknesses of Subtlety. As people who have tried the spec will notice pretty quickly, Subtlety struggles relatively annoyingly in smaller trash pulls, and in 2 to 3 targets it can be pretty unimpressive. This set can help combat some of those issues while still also being a potentially good single target choice and multi-target. Okay, so Shadow Strike having a 20% chance to proc Shadow Blades is pretty simple, since Shadow Blades just makes all of our combo point generators give 1 extra combo point and deal 50% of their damage as Shadow. This is a nice and simple passive damage gain while also making it so we're guaranteed to hit full combo points during our Shadow Dance windows every 2 GCDs no matter how good or bad of procs you get, and increasing the efficiency of Shadow Dance window GCDs is a big part of getting the most damage out of Subtlety. The 4 set, however, is where things can become a bit more interesting. Since we basically always run deeper stratagem, we should be using 6 combo point finishers, which means every finishing move we use will have a 24% chance to proc Shadow Strike cast, and this can hit up to 5 nearby enemies. The real question is, how is the game gonna recognize those free Shadow Strikes? Will they be able to apply Find Weakness to the targets they hit? Or will they all grant combo points like a Shadow Strike is supposed to? Or will they be affected by the Weapon Master talent, which makes Shadow Strike have a chance to double hit? Any of these effects would be massively beneficial to the set and the spec in general, and this brings us back to our 2 set, which says Shadow Strikes have a chance to proc Shadow Blades. This could and should mean that every time we proc the 4 set in a 5 target AoE situation, then there is a very, very high likelihood that we will get Shadow Blades to trigger off of at least one of those Shadow Strikes, which just means even more damage. For legendaries, the one that comes to mind with this was Akari's Soul Fragment. This legendary at one point in the early days of the Shadowlands beta was honestly pretty much insane because of how the Shadow Strikes were calculated. Simply put, any synergy that this set bonus has with Akari's could bring Subtlety to a pretty awesome level of performance, even to the point of actually making it pretty good in low target situations, which is its one big weakness. Currently, the Akari's second Shadow Strike thing isn't technically a Shadow Strike anymore, so I doubt we'll see any insane positive feedback loops of Shadow Strikes from the set bonus proccing extra strikes, which will proc Akari's, which proc Shadow Blades, or anything quite that crazy. Again, it is too early to say how and what each of these set bonuses will do and what they're going to interact with in our toolkit, but overall the Subtlety setup is just sounding very, very appealing on paper. Well folks, I hope to have some more information on this as soon as possible, because the 9.2 PTR probably won't be live until the week after Thanksgiving is over. I really hope they put this gear on a vendor ASAP though, so you can see exactly how good or bad or how these things are going to work and what combinations can end up being made. But until then, it was fun to speculate and theorize what could be coming for us in Eternity's End. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if so, feel free to leave a like or maybe a comment about what you think of the sets or possible combinations that we could see. As always, my appreciation and gratitude to all of my viewers, and especially my patrons, who all help make these Shiba Shenanigans possible. Thank you all so much for watching. This is the Red Rogue, and I'll see you guys around.